If anyone else saw this recently, John Boyega, who plays Finn in Star Wars Episode 7, and he's been known as to be a fan of video games. I think he said it in an interview previously. He loved the Force Unleashed games, and he was really excited for Battlefront. So just recently he tweeted at EA Star Wars, and I'm quoting, "Will fans get a full-on offline story mode? It's a more enjoyable way to learn the controls." To which EA Star Wars replies, "Have you had a chance to try the missions?" Which, if anyone who's played Battlefront knows the missions they're there. I guess.
Yeah,
they're a thing.
That's about all they have going for them. Yep, they are there. They can be played offline technically. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to the missions. So in response to that, Boyega actually said, "Yeah, I thought it was great, but definitely leaves you wanting to engage within a narrative." Which is very interesting. So essentially, that's Boyega asking, when are we going to see a story mode in Battlefront? Which, I don't see that happening, but I think I share with Boyega and many others that a story mode in Battlefront would have been absolutely phenomenal. That game is just so beautifully and so beautifully made and so well optimized. It's a shame that it was kind of short on content, and that it's going to be limited to just multiplayer. But so I guess that kind of brings up the question of what do you guys think about Battlefront coming out with just a multiplayer mode, and also a multiplayer mode that's kind of light even. So as far as the content it starts with.
For me, I got to play enough of Star Wars Battlefront to make a decision whether or not I was going to buy it, and I decided not to. And that was thanks to EA Access. I'm a subscriber to that. You pay $5 a month, and you get access to, a bunch of EA titles, and you get to play EA titles for up to 10 hours, right? So it's like 10 hours. That's more than enough time to figure if I want this for the long haul. I didn't. I play multiplayer games, but I want there to be something there. Not necessarily that there needs to be a story mode. For instance, I love Titanfall. I would have loved a single-player campaign, and hearing that the second game is going to have that, future Civil War in space, awesome. But for Star Wars, here's the thing. Amy Hennig, who left Naughty Dog, is working on the Star Wars game, right? And if she has any kind of say, that game's going to have a tremendous story, right?
Yep.
Do you think that maybe we didn't need a story in Battlefront because we got the movie, right? We wanted something just to salivate ourselves with Star Wars. So maybe what EA was thinking is, instead of trying to push our team too thin and try to make this game more than it needs to be, we'll give them a multiplayer experience for people who love Star Wars, right? It's really enriching. But for the people who want more, who want a story, well, we have that game coming. And I wish if they were just a little bit more clear about their messaging, like, we have the story game you want, just wait, it's almost here. And I think we'll hear more about that at E3. They have to say something about that game, right? I think if they were just clear in their messaging of, like, we know you guys want a story game, we are working on that. Just please give us some time. And if people knew that there was a story coming out, maybe people would still want a story in Battlefront, but what would the story be about? They could make a clone of Force Awakens and just put that in a video game, but I personally don't want that. That's what the movie's there for. Personally, if I'm going to play a game that's based solely on the product, that's what Lego does, right? That's what Lego does. They make games that are based on the movie specifically. They could do a side story and stuff like that, but once again, I think that's what Amy Hennig's working on. I think they're making something that's going to be really great. I have no doubt Naughty Dog has a track list. She has a track list for making great games. So that's my opinion on it. I think it's fine with it not having a story mode. Not every game needs a story mode. If there's something else in play, this being an Amy Hennig game,
So
yeah.
I'm unbelievably hyped for that. I mean, I know absolutely nothing about it except she's working on it and that it's coming too. Has there been any details released about that, or do we know even kind of what?
No.
There's nothing.
We don't know anything.
Oh man.
Nothing.
So yeah, I'd say I kind of disagree with you, Jared. I think that I'm super excited for Amy Hennig's game, and yes, that is going to be story driven and all that, I believe. But
we hope.
Sure. I don't think that game's existence, or the fact that it's going to probably be written by Amy Hennig, negates Battlefront having a story.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I think Battlefront can have its own story, and I think they just put out a book last fall called Battlefront Twilight Company, which I haven't read.
From what I heard, those books aren't necessarily great, but that's besides the point.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it does show that, like, you could write a story about a squadron in Battlefront, and you could make it good. I definitely think there could be cool Battlefront stories told.
Yeah.
And I think that they could give some real context to these battles that you're fighting in. To me, Battlefront is kind of lame. Not the concept of Battlefront. I love the old games, and I love Star Wars, but this game itself is a little bit lame. It's a little bit just eye candy.
It's like product pushing, I think. It's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. Same with the Disney Infinity 3.0 playset. It's like, this is the big kid version of Disney Infinity 3.0,
So
Yeah.
Battlefront is definitely taking advantage of people's love for Star Wars, right? I mean, without a doubt,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm one of those people, and I absolutely bought it without a shred of regret. I mean, I knew for $60, this isn't a good value, but man, it looks so good, and I love Star Wars so much that I couldn't not. So yeah, I unapologetically said screw it. I mean, I guess in a way, yeah, they're pulling one on me, but I'm okay with it, I guess.
Yeah.
See, and that's exactly how I felt, and I was feeling just like you, and I was planning on getting the game, but as soon as that $50 price point dropped for the season pass, it was clear to me that they were really gouging.
Oh yeah, they're
people.
milking it.
Yeah.
Because exactly, you're essentially buying 2 games there, and when the base game itself is so content lacking, well, then you essentially have to buy the season pass if you want the full experience.
So you're spending $120 or $110 on something that you should have had with your $60 purchase. I think that's a problem
tax,
too.
Yeah, it's $120. That's 2 games.
Yeah, I think that's a problem too with people wanting a single player, is because the multiplayer doesn't feel that enriching. I think if the multiplayer was actually an enriching experience and it was deep and there was a lot of content there, people wouldn't have an issue. Well, they probably would have an issue with that, with it not having a single player, but it wouldn't be as much of an issue. It feels as if, okay, they didn't do a single player and they didn't fully do the multiplayer. So what exactly did they do?
Yeah.
They wanted you to buy Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars,
Yeah. I think, honestly, if it was just the game that it is, plus you have a decent 8 to 10 hour single player story that's fun and engaging,
Yeah.
I think I probably would have bought the game at $60. Now I'm going to wait, until the deluxe package with all the actual content is super cheap, and then I'll play it and dink around with it for 10 or 15 hours, whatever.
Here's the thing, Dom. I don't blame you for doing that. I mean, it's something you really love, right? And for me, I'm like, well, Star Wars isn't a huge thing to me. I enjoy Star Wars. I like it a lot, but my passion isn't to that point. But then I put it in retrospect of something I'm super passionate about, Lord of the Rings. If this would have happened with Lord of the Rings, if they did like a multiplayer game, I would have definitely bought it because I would have gotten pulled in, if it was a cash grab. So you kind of have to put this into perspective of something you are that passionate about and be like, well, you can't blame everybody, because if I was in their situation, would I have done the same thing? And for me personally, I would have. So I would have been just as much guilty as you are, So I think I agree with you, Jordan, that, yeah, Amy Hennig's game doesn't make it, any less important for Battlefront to be different than what it is.
Right.
But for somebody who is super into Star Wars, at least, even though they got you this time, make sure you do your research on that game. Whether Amy Hennig's working on it or not, make sure it's something you want to purchase, not just because it has Star Wars on it.
Sure.
Don't let them hit you twice. But in the same essence, don't be so against it because of Battlefront that you don't see it for what it is. It's kind of playing that and figuring out what exactly it is. Don't kind of, bash that game for what happened with Battlefront, because they are completely 2 different entities, even though they're both under EA's blanket.
So really quick side note on this too. I don't know if you guys saw this. So they finally, a few weeks back, they outlined some of the DLC going forward, but then more recently, and I'm reading this from IGN, they kind of detailed exactly what the first DLC is going to be, and it's going to include 2 new hero characters. So just really quick, I'm gonna name each of the characters and see if either of you guys know who they are in the Star Wars universe.
Okay. I probably won't, but
the
let's
first
see.
is Celestin Rebel Neon Numby. I don't know how you say it.
No idea.
Exactly. Who?
No clue.
Yes, I do know who that is. He is the pilot that helps out Lando in Return of the Jedi in the Millennium Falcon over the Battle of Endor.
All right. The second I was familiar with, but some people might not be as, is the Rhodian bounty hunter Greedo.
Yeah, Greedo. Yeah, he's the one who shot
Yep.
first, right?
Yeah, he definitely
I know that.
didn't shoot first.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. That doesn't make me want to buy the game anymore because it's whatever. But that is interesting. Those are some Greedo makes sense because for the Super Star Wars guys, it's like, oh, it's Greedo. But the other one is like, it has to be a deep dive, right? It's like, oh, you definitely are a Star Wars fan if you know who the hell this is.
so I think
Yeah, but see, like, I know who that guy is, and it's still not making me want to buy this
Exactly.
game.
I was so
Exactly.
expecting Chewbacca or Yoda or something. I
That's
don't know.
weird. How is Chewbacca
Yeah,
not
see,
in
that's
it?
like,
I want to
it's
use
a
that
cool-
big old bow that he has and just annihilate things, you know?
the Celestin is a cool tip of the cap, but really, like, who wants to play as that weird flap face
You know,
monster?
you know what I think it
Like,
is though? I think it's that at this point, the only people who are really playing Battlefront are the people who already bit, you know, and they're super into it, and they're like, "Well, I already did it," and then they see this thing and they're like, "So I'm already invested," and they gave me this weird nod. Cool, you know?
Yeah.
For the
yeah,
peop-
the bandwagon people probably already jumped back off. They probably had their fun times, you know. One thing about this, going back a ways, though, on the John Boyega tweet, when I first saw that, I was like, hey, man, where were you, like, 6 or 8 months ago
Yeah.
when all of us gamers were talking about this?
Yeah.
Like, you could have actually maybe, like, I don't think they would have rushed and thrown something in there, but you could have at least got them thinking in time to go, you know what, we're going to throw it in the season pass, and it's only going to be 4 hours, but whatever.
But here's the thing, though, is the gamers are so fickle, right? And they're quick to get angry at things. Maybe he felt like, I want people to enjoy me and my portrayal of this character in Star Wars, you know? And he didn't want to step on too many toes. The dude's relatively unknown, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think he didn't want to do something and then somehow it backfired, because things can backfire easily on social media. We've seen that, especially with the gaming industry. And yeah, he should have voiced his opinion, but then again, it's like, this dude's new. He wants to be loved by the Star Wars community, and I think he didn't want to count his chickens before they were hatched. He wanted to, you know, get involved in the community the movie way and then start voicing his opinions. Yeah, it sucks he didn't voice them sooner, but his words earlier wouldn't have meant anything, right? Because no one knew who he was.
The way you're describing this makes him sound like he's like a Sith Lord in the background, just pulling the puppet strings, like, wait until I get them on my side with the movie.
Like,
Yeah. Well, okay, that wraps up our first podcast, guys. Thank you guys for listening to the Controlled Interest Gamescast. Yeah, make sure to tune in. Follow us on Twitter. That's where you're going to see most of our updates, if not all of our updates regarding our YouTube videos, our publishing of all of our content, and, you know, just keep in touch with us as our content gets put up on the internet. I'm Jared. You can see me at Twitter at Jared_. Jordan, you can see him at Twitter at Mellowmodus, MELLOWMODUS. And Dom, you can find him at Twitter at Dom9494. And our Twitter for Controlled Interests is at CTRLINT. That's at CTRLINT. Thank you guys for listening. We enjoy every listen we get. Share it with your friends if you want to, because we want to make this something that's really awesome. And for the first episode, I definitely want to give a shout out to the Kind of Funny guys. They brought us together to make this podcast a reality, and we really, you know, are fortunate enough to have that inspiration from them. So definitely a shout out to the Kind of Funny guys. Any closing thoughts, Jordan, Dom?
Hashtag smash the dunst.
Dom?
That's a Kind of Funny Let's Play throwback.
I mean, Greedo shot first.
Okay.
There you go.
See you guys in episode 2 next week. Thank you guys for listening. Catch you next time. Bye.